Welcome back, my legends, and today I'm going to describe every legend's biggest fear in detail, and we're going to start off this list with everybody's favorite, Mirage. Now, Mirage's biggest fear has something to do with his mom. Now, it's kind of been accepted that Mirage's mom, Evelyn Witt, has some form of dementia where she's forgetting things about her past, especially her last remaining son, Elliot Witt. Now, Mirage's biggest fear is going to be either his mom dying, or worse, his mom forgetting who he ever was. Is kind of the reason why he made the heirloom, to try to help her not forget about him. Now, the next person is Rafe. Now, you would think her biggest fear will be not finding out about her past, but it's actually the opposite. Deep down, she is afraid of finding the truth because she questions why would she work with somebody like Ymir Sings, who was known to be a bad person, yet she decided to work with him, and in the end, he backstabbed her and betrayed her and drugged her, made her forget who she was, but still wonders what if the roles were reversed, where she was the head scientist and Ymir Sings was the one that volunteered to be experimented on. What exactly would her old self have done? And so her biggest fear is finding out that maybe she's just as evil as him. Next up is Ballistic. Now, Ballistic, you would think his biggest fear will be losing his son in the Apex games, just like how he lost Kid in the Thunderdome games because of his reckless playstyle that they had to cover him. And to an extent that is true, but his biggest real fear is actually himself. I mean, he didn't want to talk to his son and convince him not to join the games. Instead, he forced his way into Mr. Silva's office and forced him to make a deal with him where he will keep his son out of the games in exchange for him. Now, there's no guarantee that Silva's gonna keep his promise. He already backstabbed Seer by saying he'll bring the games to Boris, but instead he brought him to the moon. So why exactly will he keep his promise for him? And as we can clearly see, his son didn't really appreciate what his dad did for him. And so yes, Ballistic's biggest fear is communicating. Next up is Bloodhound. Now, Bloodhound has a very complicated fear. They're afraid of heights.
I cannot see the ground. It is bothersome. That is all.
Oh, of course.
The next person is going to be Loba. Now, her biggest fear is getting backstabbed by the people closest to her, which is kind of funny because that's exactly what's kind of happening in the lore right now, where Valkyrie is going behind her back in order to make a deal with Revenant so that way he would leave her alone for good.
So we're still on the same page, right?
You get one last chance to give me what I want or else.
And Jamie also went behind Loba's orders to throw away Rev's head in the face driver to Gridiron because he knew that was best for her, but still she would still look at this like a betrayal because they went against her, and this is her biggest fear, basically coming to life if she ever figures out that they're doing this behind her back. Next up is Crypto. Now, Crypto's biggest fear is he's afraid of getting exposed as Taejun Park because he was framed for murder for Mila's death, which he didn't do. He joined the games to try to clear his name and also exposed the Syndicate to get back at them, and well, if he's ever discovered, well, it's game over for him. And so Crypto's biggest fear is getting his identity exposed, which kind of ties in with Watson because Crypto was willing to tell Watson his real name in order for her to trust him. The problem in doing that is that Watson's not really the best at keeping secrets.
Hold on, Taiju. Just take better care of yourself. Got you, Taiju. Oh. Jules and Watts are tied for my favorite units of measurement.
You see, she already accidentally revealed Crypto's secrets. You see, Ash was going to attack Watson. She screamed for three legends' names: Gibraltar, Rafe, and Taejun.
You're good at keeping secrets. I trust you.
Next up is the Williams siblings. Now, they have the opposite fear of each other. The thing is that Bangalore wants to go back to her original family in Gridiron, but there's no guarantee that they're alive because nobody knows what really happened. And when she found Jackson had a family in Harris Valley, it was kind of made very clear that he did not want her in it because that would put his family at risk. And so because of that, Bangalore's biggest fear is having no family left. While on the other side, Newcastle does have a family. The whole reason he cannot allow Bangalore to be with his family is because if the town found out that he's Jackson Williams, an ex-IMC pilot, there is a chance that Jackson might be told to get out of town with his family because the people of Harris Valley are like ex-IMC employees that were just abandoned in the Outlands. While the Forgotten Family are a group of ex-IMC loyalists that go after anybody that left the battlefield, like what Jackson decided to do back in Gridiron in the cinematic. And so Jackson is kind of put in this corner where his biggest fear is losing his family again. Next up is Horizon. Now Horizon has a simple fear. You see, she kind of promised Newton that she'll see him again after her mission with Branton, which we all know what happened. And so because of that, she has this like fear that because she never kept her promise, Newton might have grown up resenting her for leaving him behind. And so her biggest fear is that she was a bad mom and her kid probably hates her. Next up is going to be Caustic. Now, Caustic is the biggest coping legend in the roster because we learned a long time ago, I think in season 9, that he has cancer. And so because of that, he tried to apply to be a simulacrum, which Hammond Robotics denied his application because the last time they made a crazy person into simulacrum, it didn't end it good. And so because of that, he's not doing his own research to become one. And so ironically, the guy who claims he can control death and understand it is afraid of dying. And speaking about dying, the next legend we're going to talk about is Revenant. Now, Revenant actually has a big fear, and no, it's not losing the thick Latinas. You see, Revenant has been under the control of Hammond Robotics for about 300 years until his retention system got broken because of a glass shard. And ever since he was freed, he's been trying to get his source code or his head and try to destroy it, but it keeps getting away from him. And so because of that, his biggest fear is being controlled by an unknown puppet master. Next up is Lifeline. Now, originally I was going to say that her biggest fear is that she was becoming more like her evil parents, but in reality, I think now her biggest fear will be that she will never be friends with Octane ever again, because it was because of Octane pushing her to get out of her comfort zone, be more self-dependent and more confident, and also join the Frontier Corp and learn about her parents' dark secret past that made her want to atone for her parents' sins. Without Octane, the Lifeline that we know will probably not exist. On the other hand, we have Octane. Now, Octane's biggest fear is that when he was a kid, he just wanted love and attention from his parents, which they never really gave it to him. And so because of that, he decided to do extreme stunts in order to get attention, which worked out and made him very popular. But you gotta question, what if one day Octane's not gonna be able to do any of his stunts anymore? How many of those fans will still be fans? And so Octane's biggest fear is basically being irrelevant. And so the next legend we're going to talk about is Seer. Now, Seer, he's been bullied his entire life just because he was born with blue eyes, and people associated him with a curse, which kind of put the blame on him for the moon being broken somehow. And so when Seer got older, because people were saying that he wasn't doing much, he decided to bring the Apex games to the planet in order to get people jobs, but Eduardo ended up backstabbing him and bringing the games to the moon Cleo, which people in Boris were mad because the Apex games is very destructive, and so they're basically destroying the moon even more. Worst of all, his parents were disappointed in him because they thought he was too ambitious instead of trying to do the small things to help people. And so Seer's biggest fear is disappointing the people that he loves the most, his parents. And so the next person that's kind of connected with the whole Seer thing is going to be Catalyst. Now, Catalyst's biggest fear is going to be losing the moon, because not only was the moon like a refuge after she lost Margot, but she swore to herself that she'll protect it at all costs, and then, you know, Seer kind of ruined it. And so Catalyst's biggest fear is basically losing her home. The next legend is going to be Valkyrie. Now, if you're wondering why Valkyrie is going behind Lova's back, she understands that Lova is filled with hatred and revenge, that she's willing to sacrifice her own happiness in order to make him suffer, which she kind of understands because Valkyrie kind of wasted a lot of her life trying to look for Kuben Blisk, only for him to basically said that if you kill him, it won't make any difference in the end. And so Valkyrie is doing all this so that way Revenant will leave them alone and they can be like an official married couple or something. And so Valkyrie's biggest fear is losing Lova, especially if she takes this all the wrong way. The next legend we're going to talk about is Vantage. Now, Vantage has a simple fear, and that's not being able to see her mom ever again. Now, she feels guilty because it's kind of her fault that she got arrested, even though Xenia is clearly not an angel and is clearly keeping secrets away from her daughter. She probably still loves her mom, and she's going to be disappointed that she won't be able to show how much she's grown by learning about society. And so yeah, losing your mom sucks. Next up is Ash. Her biggest fear is not being able to be perfect, and that's pretty much it. She's just a perfectionist. Next, I'm going to talk about Rampart. Now, her biggest fear is that people are going to figure out that she's and yeah, now you know about Rampart's biggest fear. And the last legend we're going to talk about is Pathfinder. His biggest fear is if he gives somebody a high five, they don't give one back. And so yeah, that's it, my legends. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time. Peace.